Awesome. So I'm Brianna. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself. Your name, your age, if you want to, where you're from, how long you've been raising chickens, and yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Hannah Thomas, 16 years old. I'm from Indiana. I've been raising chickens for probably 6 years now, and I just got into showing last year, so it's kind of a new thing to me, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So go ahead and you can take your bird out of the cage.
Okay.
Um,
The first I'll take out is feed and water and stills and then taking out head birds. Next damage to the feathers. Okay.
yeah, and go ahead and tell me a little bit about him. What kind he is, what your like what breed, variety, and then walk me through like the different parts and what you're looking for in them.
Okay. So this right here is a Bantam Dominique, accepted in the APA in 1960. A fun fact about the large fowl version, first breed in America. I always like throw that fun fact out there. So he is a cockbird, so over a year, and he has a rose comb. So whenever I'm going through my bird, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to look at the comb. So you have the base, the round points, and the spike. Those are all parts of the rose comb. He has his beak here, his nostrils on both sides, his wattles. His comb and his wattles are used to regulate his body temperature. He has his eyes. His eyes should be a reddish bay in color, 3 parts to the eyelid, the upper, the lower, and the nictitating membrane. He has his ears, which are covered by his little feather covering, and his earlobes, which should be a red color because the hen of the Bantam Dominique does lay a brown egg. Moving down, we have the neck with the hackle feathers, the nape of the neck. Along the front, here's the crop. Moving further down, he has the back. He has his wings. Some parts of his wings include the front, the shoulder, the bows, the bars, the coverts, the primaries, and the secondaries, along with the axle feather that divides them. There should be about 12 primaries and 14 to 18 secondaries. And then it's the same thing on this side. Front, shoulder, bows, bars, coverts, primaries, 12, and then 14, 18 secondaries, along with that axle feather that divides them up. Moving down to the legs, we have the thigh, the hock joint, the shank. Since he is a male, he has spurs. The only other breed you're going to really find spurs is the Sumatra, where hens can have spurs, and it's ideal for the cocks to have more than one. Then the toes. This breed has 3 toes in the front, 1 in the back. Same on both legs. You have the pads of the toes, the nails, and the webbing that's in between them. And identification measures can be used within those by cutting them to identify groups of birds. Moving back along the back, there is the oil or preen gland, and that's used with their beak. They'll get the oil on that and use that to clean their feathers, especially important in waterfowl because they use that to waterproof their feathers. And then moving right down along, you have the saddle feathers here, which is going to look significantly different on the male because they are pointed and long compared to the female. Same with the hackles up there. Then the main tail feathers, and then the sickles. He is in molt right now, so he is missing one of his main sickles, but there should be 2. And then moving right on along, there's the vent. And you want that to be clean, free of any parasites. Going back into the parasites with the eyes, you don't want to see any signs of Manson's eyeworms. Same with the legs, you don't want any scaly leg mites. So those are kind of some things you're going to look for in there too. And then it's more important on a hen, but you can feel the width of the pubic bones to see how big the egg will be and if it can pass. Ideally, on a large fowl, you want around 3 fingers, and then also the keel bone or breastbone, which would be up front-ish, and underneath, you want that to be straight, not crooked, especially ideal in your production birds or breeders because you want to make sure that you're getting the best quality out of those.
Yeah,
That's kind
awesome
of
job. Can you go name a couple things that your bird has, your strengths and your weaknesses, that things you want to improve and things you want to pass on to the next generation, and how it
okay.
fits into your breeding program.
And how, sorry, what was the last part?
How he fits into your breeding program.
Okay. So some things that I would want to improve is his beak. He has, I don't know if you can see it, quite a big black spot on his beak. Not ideal. On the hens, it's okay, but on the cocks, not something that I'd like to see. And that is something I would change if I could. Another thing, his rose comb is dipped down a little too deep for my liking. It's not the worst, but it definitely could be better. Um, Moving on to, of course, he is molting. That's gonna get better, but right now, purpose, not ideal, but still something that's gonna be fine. He does have good coloring. I personally like his coloring because you can really see the cuckoo pattern, which is something that sometimes you struggle with in the Dominique, especially with the history and how it kind of struggled there for a little bit, way back whenever rates of the bird kind of fell. So that's a really nice thing about him. He has good coloring on his legs, nice yellow, and that's really ideal with this breed. Good eye color. I know I have other Dominiques that have slightly incorrect eye color, so that's something I really do like about this bird too. And all those kind of go into the breeding program and kind of just the good traits carry out more dominantly, and then within the hens, I can fix the ones that I don't like about him.
Absolutely. What are some things that you do, both daily care and long-term care to prep and short-term care to prep a bird for show?
So what I like to do is I like to always start off roughly 3 days before the show. I give my birds a bath, and then I personally don't use glycerin, but I know some people do, or whitening to kind of make their birds white. I don't really have to because of the breed he is, but I do use a poultry shampoo, and sometimes other people use just like Dawn dish soap. That works too, but that's what I like to use. I like to try to influence factors so they aren't in molt. That didn't happen this year for show, unfortunately, but that is something I like to do with light levels and the way I'm feeding. I don't want to unaccidentally go make them go into a forced molt. So that's another thing I'm looking out for. I definitely like to make sure that their feet are clean. I have had issues because I am on a smaller scale and have to have them in pens. Um, their feet do tend to get dirty, so I do like to regularly clean their feet and make sure there's not a buildup because I don't want them getting sores on their feet. And then I also make sure they have fresh water, fresh food, make sure that there's no mold. I have good biosecurity practices. I make sure that if shoes go into the chicken coop, they stay, they don't cross contaminate between breeding pens and all that sort of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, that kind of nailed it on the head. Um, I just have a whole bunch of different poultry questions. Some of them you've already answered, but can you name 5 defects and 5 disqualifications in chickens? And it can either be breed specific or general.
Okay. So some defects include some of the coloring things like on the beak, that's a defect. Having a dipped rose comb is a defect. The coloration of the earlobe is a bit of a toss up depending on how much of the coloring is wrong. If it's under a certain amount, it's just a defect. If it's over a certain amount with this breed specifically, it is a disqualification. Hens that have spurs, that can be a disqualification, I believe. If they have the incorrect amount of toes, like on silkies, then that can be a disqualification. If they have some incorrect colors over a certain amount, that can be disqualification, like on Polishes, if they have white where there shouldn't be. Like on a white crested black, I should be more specific there. Trying to think what else. That's kind of the main ones I can think of. On the comb, if they have, or I guess on the feet, if they have stubs, I believe that's the feet one.
Yeah.
Where they have the feathers. Yeah. I always get that, and then the extra growth on the single comb off and
Yeah.
fix it. Yeah, if they have those on their feet, that's a disqualification, especially in some of the not feather-legged breeds.
Yeah,
And I think that's some anyway.
for sure. And so for Pips and Chicks for our show, we have a lot of chickens. We also are trying to get quail into there. We're getting quail, the standard established, as well as quail shows. So you threw in some of our exhibitors for Showmanship are both chicken and quail exhibitors. So we have some quail questions in here and some different species in there. So what are 5 major defects or disqualifications in Coturnix quail?
Um, I am gonna say I'm a little shaky on the quail side,
Oh yeah.
but um, I'm gonna go with possibly if the keel bone is crooked, that
Yep,
maybe
absolutely.
yes. Broken toes, maybe.
Yep.
Um, Incorrect coloring, like if they're entered into the wrong class, maybe. I
So
don't know if that.
not quite. We're not there with quail yet where we have a solid color established. Eventually we'll get there. But for right now, we don't have any major disqualifications based on color.
Okay. Um, Trying to think what else could.
Yeah. It's so a couple other ones that we have. A lot of things that like a lot of your general chicken ones also transfer over pretty well. So things like your crooked
Okay.
beak, if they have
Mhm.
total blindness in there, um, and things like your curled toes, your roach back, which can be common in some breeds, your
Okay.
like you said, your keel bone, things overall that affect production are also things
Mhm.
that are going to be a major disqualification in quail.
Okay.
Um, so you kind of touched on this a little bit before, but what is biosecurity and why do we keep track of it?
So biosecurity, pretty much the measures taken to prevent transmissible diseases from spreading. So like some great things like blood testing, PT, full-arm typhoid, that's a major one. And like just within doing that sort of thing, you can kind of see other things because I know PT's been eradicated from Indiana since 81, but still in general, good biosecurity is just kind of taking care of the birds and watching out for anything that could potentially be detrimental to the flock.
Yeah, absolutely. What is bleaching in chickens? And yeah, we'll start with that.
So bleaching in chickens, sorry, is where like specifically in hens, what the color pretty much goes from their legs and into the yolk, legs, right underneath the eye, beak, all that sort of thing, and it's pretty much the color loss or pigmentation loss, I should say, of the hens whenever they're going into egg production.
Yeah. Um, and adding on to that, where does that yellow color come from?
It comes from, I'm not probably not going to say the word right, but I believe like grass and corn, I believe the stuff they eat, and then it goes into the yolk, and it's kind of yeah pigmentation. I
Yeah.
want to say that it starts with the C, but I'm not sure on that.
It actually starts with an X. Xanthophil is the like correct
Okay,
name,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you're 100% right. Corn and it comes from their feed. Corn is a huge one and grass. So you'll see that a lot in Wyandottes. They'll feed it a little bit extra corn to yellow up the legs a bit. Um Adding on to that, what color feet should Tibetan and Rosetta quail have?
I feel like they should have darker feet because of their coloration. I'm not sure the exact color, but I'm pretty sure it's a darker color
Yeah,
than
they
the
should have brown toe or brown feet. Once in a while, you'll find them having pink toes, but that's not ideal, especially in the Rosettas. You'll get more of that pink toe and pink leg, but black is ideal. Um, Going on to Coturnix quail again, can you name the five main base patterns for them and the differences between it?
So the five main base patterns. I don't know if I'm going to say the right thing, but I'm do kind of think I know
Okay,
some maybe.
give it a
Okay,
shot.
so so like there's the heterozygous and homozygous fawn, which is like the Italian, and the starts with an M, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not sure the name off
Yep,
the top of my head.
Manchurian.
Yes, that one. Then there's the heterozygous and homozygous. It's two letters. Is it EB?
Yep,
Maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah,
extended
okay.
brown.
Okay, yeah, there's that one, which is the Rosetta and the Tiverton. I'm not going to say it right, but that
Mm-hmm.
one. And then there's the wild type. I'm not sure. I know it has wild in it. And
Yeah,
then
wild type.
the there's another one that I am blanking on.
I was
But
gonna say that's all of them.
okay, never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few that have been proposed. So sometimes you'll see recessive black, which is not in public hands, so we really don't care about it. Some people think pansy is one. I, it's not really highly thought of as a base pattern. But yeah, you nailed the five main ones. Uh,
Okay.
what are the two main common or most common ingredients in commercial feed for poultry in the United States?
So typically that's corn and soybean meal.
Yeah. What are some other material other ingredients you'll see, especially in other countries?
Um, some other ingredients. I'm not sure of that one actually.
Yeah, wheat and sorghum. Sorghum especially is
Okay,
um
yeah, yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense.
You'll see that start to pop up. That's just not grown as much in the United States, but
Yeah.
um what does the depth of the body indicate on a bird, and why is it important?
So that is to indicate how big of an egg the, or yeah, how big of an egg the hen can pass, and it's important so that way you can tell whether the hen's going to be able to pass an egg or not, and how big it's going to be, type of thing.
Absolutely. Um, what are the four recognized colors of guinea fowl according to the APA?
So there's pearl, white, and gotta think. Those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, so it's a trick question. There's actually only three of them, so you got two of the
Okay,
first.
yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. It throws people off because the people that know their guinea fowl will know it. But the third one is lavender.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
But yeah. Um, so eggs overall are very nutritious. What except they're missing one vitamin. What's the one vitamin an egg doesn't have?
Is it vitamin? It's either vitamin. Okay, sorry. I
You're
know
good.
I'm pretty sure it's one of the two I'm thinking of. Is it vitamin D?
Not quite. It's vitamin C,
Vitamin C.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got pretty much every other one. So another one that I have. This one's a pretty easy one. What's the difference between an Easter egger, an Americana, and an Araucana?
Okay, so Easter egger is going to be like your just commercial mixed breed. You're going to get those from your farm stores. They aren't purebred. Americana, they're going to have those muffs in the beard. They're going to be your purebred, and so those ones are actually recognized, unlike the Easter eggers. And then your Aracanas are your rumpless breed, and they have the ear tufts rather than the muffs in the beard.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and so going in onto that a little bit further, do you know the origin difference between the Americana and the Araucana?
The origin difference.
Yeah,
Um,
how they began.
so I'm pretty sure. I feel as if the Americana came from the Araucana, but I'm not sure on that.
I'm pretty sure it's the other way around. I don't have it like
Okay.
100% myself, but I know there's quite a bit of controversy in there. Um,
Okay.
let's see. I think you named this. Yep, you did that one before. How is salmonella spread and can quail carry it?
Salmonella is spread pretty much through either egg, manure, that sort of thing. I feel as if quail don't carry it, but I'm not sure on that. Well, I'm not sure if they do because I feel like quail can carry it actually, but I'm not sure for that
Okay. So that one again, another little bit of a trick question.
one. Okay.
Um, so there's a bit of a controversy on whether quail can or cannot have it. The follow-up question I was going to ask was why? Because typically the answer is no. There's no
Okay.
confirmed case of quail ever carrying salmonella that got transferred to humans, where chickens, salmonella transferring salmonella through the eggs is pretty common. And the reason it's believed that quail don't
Okay.
transfer salmonella is because they have a slightly higher body temperature, and they also have a lifosome
Okay.
that is believed to not contribute to it as much. So just kind of interesting. Um,
Okay.
how much floor space should be provided for large fowl, bantams, and quail? We're talking about square foot per bird.
Okay. I want to say it's 1.5 to 2 feet per large fowl and 0.75 to 1.5 per bantam. I'm not sure on the numbers there.
And how much for quail?
And for quail, I'm imagining similar to bantam, maybe less. I'm not sure the numbers there.
Yeah, so it's 1.5 to 2 feet for large fowl. There, you were spot on.
Okay.
It's 1 foot per bantam. This is according to University of Iowa. So sometimes you'll get a
Okay.
little bit of variable. So you were right
Yeah.
in there. And then for quail, it's generally said 4 per square foot. So
Okay.
a quarter square foot. Um, what color egg does a celadon lay?
Is it a speckled in color? I'm not sure. I have
Yeah,
no
it
clue.
can be.
Okay.
Celadon is actually the name for the blue egg gene in quail.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and then how many feather tracks do chickens have?
I feel like I have to think about this one. I used to know it. Do I anymore? Not necessarily. I feel like there's 10 main feather tracks, but I'm not sure on that at all.
Yes, you're spot
Okay.
on there. Can you name them or some of them?
I can try. So there's the back, the thigh, maybe. I'm not sure on
Yep.
that one. Um,
Yeah, you've got the head, the neck, the shoulder,
okay.
the wings, breast, back, abdomen, rump, thigh, and legs are all 10 of them. And then for the very last one, are pigeons considered poultry? Why or why not?
I
Ooh, I think you froze up. No, you froze for a second there. It's okay. We're at the end of the time pretty much anyway. That one's kind of a free for all points because I don't know if you can still hear me, but I'll answer for anyone watching on the YouTube afterwards. So basically there's no definite answer. People do consider them poultry, people don't. There's a push right now to get them considered poultry, but they're not recognized. Yeah, she left, so I'll message her after. They're not recognized by the APA, so um and there's generally an argument. So points goes to any exhibitor that can just give an answer and support why or why not. Um yeah, and overall, um yeah.